Hello and welcome to this quick React tutorial for back-end developers. Now, by no means this is a crash course or anything. This is just a tutorial intended to shed the lights on React as a great front-end library or framework to work with your back-end server in order to create full-fledged web application. The reason I'm making this video is that I'm planning to create full-stack projects using Python frameworks, of course, as a back-end server and React as the front-end. So at least I wanted to leave a quick reference for what is React, its internal structure, and how different files inside a React app work together. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's start. So what is React? React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. This is the official website of React, ReactJS.org. So you have here the docs, tutorial, blog, community. You can search by a keyword. It has different languages if your mother language or mother tongue is not English. Okay, so English, Spanish, Arabic, French, right? Polish. Okay, so this is the website of React. It's very accessible and you can get started directly, and it will guide you to create your just simple application and see how React works. It has a section for React for beginners, and also it has advanced guides, the installation, how to create a new React app, and so on. So React is used to create full stack applications together with a server. And later on in this tutorial, I will show you how to connect Django to React. So React creates the visual part of the application, and the logic is managed by a server-side framework like Django. You can use also Fast API or Flask, and not necessarily Python. You can use Nest.js or Express for Node.js, for example. And you have something like the MERN stack, which is MongoDB, Express, React, and Node.js. So if you want to be a full stack developer, you can learn the MERN stack. There is also the mean stack, where React is replaced by Angular framework. And by the way, React is a library, not a framework, but the majority say React is a framework. So you're free to refer to React as a library or framework. That doesn't matter really. The main reason actually that a lot call React a framework, that they compare it with big frameworks such as Angular, which has its own architecture, it has its routing system and so on, and Vue.js as well. Okay, so these are the three main frameworks in the market right now when it comes to front-end development. But personally, I like to work with Django and Fast API as a back-end server, and React for the front end, because React is really cool. It has a lot to offer. The ecosystem of React is very big. The React community is really helpful. And if you have any problems while you're developing your application, you'll find a lot of developers would be happy to help and assist. With React also you can create single page applications or SPA. So React is not only used in full stack development, but it's also used to create single page applications or SPA. It's just one page, that it's a web application basically. It could be a task manager, a to-do list, a BMI index, a loan calculator, it could be anything. The last thing that I would like to say about React before we get started and create our React app is that React is the most demanded front-end technology on the market right now. So studying React will definitely do you good, especially if you're looking for a front-end developer job or a full-stack developer. And I think even being a back-end developer, it's very good to understand at least the mechanism through which React or Angular or any front-end framework really works from inside. And not only from inside, but how they are connected to the back-end server. Okay, and this is what we are going to do today later in this video. So things that you will need to download. First, we need Node.js installed on your computer. So if you're working on Windows or Mac OS or Linux, once you install Node.js, you can check it out in your terminal or command prompt. So node-v. And if you get version 13.7, this means that Node is properly installed on your computer. Okay, so this is very important because we will need npm or Node Package Manager, and we cannot have npm without Node. All right. Also, very important to download is React Developer Tools. Okay, it's a great idea to download the React Dev Tools in Chrome browser, and I hope that you are using Chrome browser because this is by far the best web browser out there. And when you will install the React Developer Tools, you will have the ability to check out the components, the state in your React application, and so on. So let's go ahead and create our first React application. Now I'm going to use create React app, and this is a command line program. The prerequisites to work with React is obviously JavaScript, because you cannot work with React without knowing JavaScript. And not only the fundamentals, I should say. Okay, you should know the ES6 classes, higher order functions, array functions such as sort, filter, reduce, map. We use these functions very often. Also the error functions, things like callbacks, promises, async await syntax. All of that is very important to have before you jump directly and start creating your React app. And as I said, the core fundamentals of JavaScript are very important, but you'll need also to know the other stuff. Alright, so let's go ahead and create our first React application. There are three ways to create the React app. The first is through npx, second is through npm, and the third is through yarn. npx stands for Node Package Execute, npm stands for Node Package Manager, and yarn. I used to work with npm quite a lot, so you would do npm init React app and the name of your application, and it starts creating packages and dependencies and everything. But now I use npx quite often. And if you worked with npm before and installed it globally, when you will start creating your app using npx, you will have an error. You will have an error telling you that npx does not support anymore installing npm globally on your system. So before you would do it like npm install -g React app and the name of your application. So npx doesn't support that anymore. So in order to create your React application in a very easy way, npx create React app and the name of your application. And let's call our application Frontend. And the main difference between npx and npm actually is that npx is going to download the most recent create React app release. It will run it and then it will remove it from your system. And this is great because you will never have an outdated version on your system from create React app. And every time you run it, you're getting the latest and greatest code available. And also you can start building your app directly without having to deal with Babel configuration, for example. And Babel is just a transpiler that converts JSX to JavaScript. And it's going to take some time to create the React app, from 12 to 14 minutes. So I'm gonna pause the video here and get back when it's all done. Alright, so we are almost there. Alright, perfect. I said that it will take from 12 to 14 minutes. Well, I work on Windows and on Mac, and I can say that when I create a React app on Mac, it takes less time than it actually takes when I'm working on Windows. So, I don't know, it depends on the system, I guess. Okay, so we have our React application created, and in order to start the development server, we can run the command npm start. So this directly starts the development server, and it will open the browser, and it will be run on localhost and will listen on port 3000. Okay, so this is npm start. Now if you want to deploy your application, so you will need to run npm run build. This takes care of the static assets for production and so on. Okay, also you have npm test. This starts the test runner, and npm run eject. Well, this basically shows any hidden dependencies or packages if you want to change the configuration in any of them. But really what you should worry about is npm start and npm run build, those two commands. All right, so let's go ahead and type npm start in order to start our development server. So I made an error because I need to be inside the directory. I need to access Frontend first and then type the command npm start. So cd Frontend. All right, so you can see here I'm inside Frontend. Now I can type npm start. Okay, it should open now the browser. I shouldn't do it manually. All right, so this is the default page for React. Okay, this is the default page for your React application. So I just cut the front end folder. I'll just put it here on the desktop because it was created in users. So we'll start over. So let's go ahead to desktop and to front end, and let's open that with Visual Studio Code. And I really recommend working with Visual Studio Code because it has a lot of tools that can help you in your development in React. So you can go ahead and search for these tools. So you can type React, and you will find React ES7, Redux, GraphQL, React Native snippets. All right. In the future, when you will be more advanced in React, this has a lot of shortcuts that can help you, that can make your life easier actually. So let's open the terminal and close this one. Okay. And we will run directly npm start. It takes some time in Windows. I really don't know why. All right. So finally the page finished loading. Let me show you what we have in package.json. So you can see here we have the name of the application is Frontend. It has version private true. Then we have some dependencies. These three first dependencies are for testing, React, obviously React for the React tools, and the React DOM, which is a virtual DOM actually. It's not the real DOM in the browser. And we have React scripts and the web vitals. So the scripts here we have, as we said, npm start to start your server, npm run build for to create your static assets for deployment, for production, test for testing, and eject just to show the hidden any dependencies that you want to change their configurations. All right. So this is package.json. We have get ignore. So you have already a commit hidden files inside here, inside your folder, I mean. So what it did, it made get init, get add, then get commit. So get ignore, these are the things that you don't want to include when you make your commit to your GitHub repository. So for example, node modules, we don't want to include that. So it's included here. PMP, pmp.js, and bunch of other stuff. Now the potato and meat for the React app is the source folder. And kind of the public folder also, just I want to show you the index.html, but mainly the source folder. All right, so let's close get ignore, and let me explain to you very quickly what's going on here. So we have index.js. This is actually the main entry point for our React application. Okay, so as you can see, we are importing React from React, React DOM from React DOM, index.cs, also a CSS file, import app from app, which I will come to in a second, then report web vitals from report web vitals, which is this JavaScript file here. Okay, then next we have React DOM with render method, and this is one of the most important methods of React DOM. So what is it rendering exactly? It is rendering the main application. So this app, which we have imported above here, is this app file. This app file is actually an app component. And you will need to think in React, you need to think about everything as a component. A button can be a component, a header can be a component, a footer can be a component, a navigation bar can be a component. Okay, an input field, anything could be a component in your React application. And this is the beauty of React. You can really create these small individual components and then collect them together like pieces of Lego to form your application. Not only this, but you can use individual components code to reuse them in different projects. So if you have, for example, a sticky nav bar in the top, you have created it through a component. You can take this exact same code without changing anything in it and just plug it in a different project and it will work just fine. Okay, so this is the beauty of React, really. Back to our story. So this function app, it returns a component. So this is the main parent React component, or the root component, app, right here. Okay, we only have one React app component in your project, and it returns what might look like HTML to you, but it's not HTML. It's JSX, JavaScript XML. And JSX allows you to write HTML and also to insert JavaScript logic inside here. So you see this logo right here inside the curly braces. This is the spinning React image, which is here, logo.svg. So in HTML, you can give a div a class, for example. Here, we're not allowed to give just class. We are allowed to give a class name. So div with a class name of app, header with a class name of app header, an image with a source and logo. This is inserted here. This is the logo.svg. That's why we have imported it above, right? With a class name again, right? Alternative logo, edit, then source app wrapped inside code tags and save to reload, which is written here. Then we have a link tag. So if I will delete all that and I will save, we will have a clean white page, right? And let's also delete this. And we have an error because this functional component or stateless component should return something. So let's go ahead and return hello from React. All right, and we have hello from React. So if I want to display two messages, for example, or let's say any other element, let's say button. Okay, let's say click to enter, and we'll save, we'll get an error. And the reason for that is return should return just one element. So we should have one parent element, and inside that parent element we can include anything else. So to fix this problem, we can type div, we can take that and wrap it around and save, and immediately we have hello from React and our button. So this is very important to know and understand that you cannot you can adjust without div and return different elements. You will get an error. So let me add a comment here for you guys. So this is called a stateless component or functional component. And by the way, to create a component in React, we can do it through two approaches. The first approach, which is the stateless or the functional component, and the second approach using class-based components or ES6 class-based components. That's why at the beginning I told you that you should be familiar with ES6 classes. So what happens after that? Well, this app is being exported, so export default app, and imported in the index.js, which is our main entry point to our React application. So again, it's being exported here in app.js and imported in index.js. Then it's included inside the render method and then injected inside this ID, this root ID. And where's actually this ID root? Well, it's in the public folder in index.html. Below, if you'll scroll down, you will find just one div with one ID root. So index.js is looking for this div with that root ID and then binding the whole application to the div. So what's happening again is inside index.js, or let's start from app.js, this is the parent component. Let me write here, parent component or root component. This is the root component. This is the main component. Okay. Inside it, we can return different individual components. Usually we create a folder called components, and inside that folder we can create a button component, a navigation bar component, and so on. And we can return them inside our app parent component. And then what happens? We export that app file and we import it inside index.js. And then we embed it inside React DOM.render. So we render whatever is being returned here, all right, from different components. And then we inject it inside that root ID, and it's getting painted inside that div here, all right, and being displayed in the page. So this is the whole story. This is how all these files are connected together: app, index, and index.html. So what I want to do now is I want to create a component that will return the user's name. So let's delete this, and let's also delete that. We'll have only white page, and let's inside our source folder, let's create another folder. We'll call it components, and inside that we'll create a JavaScript file. And as a general convention to create any individual component, we have the first letter of the file name written in capital. So we'll say hello.js. Now we can declare our components. So as I told you, there are two syntaxes for this. The first is using a stateless component or functional component, and the second is using a class-based component. Okay, and this is ES6 style. But let's start with the functional component first, then I will show you the class-based component. And both are very easy. But before we do that, we need to import React from React. So we are importing the React class from the React module. All right, and this is the functional syntax to create a component. So let's create a simple function. We'll call it hello. Okay, and it doesn't take any inputs or any parameters. Then we want to return, and we will return, and we'll hard code our name. So h1, you can type your name, hello, back. Nothing appeared yet because we will need to export default hello first. This is the first thing we need to do, and we need to import it here. So import hello from, and as components is in the main directory source, so inside single quotes // components / and the name of the file, which is hello. We'll save that, but this is not enough. We'll need to return it inside our main app component. So simply hello like that, and we'll close the tag, and we will save, and directly you will see hello back. We can do this differently. We can make it more dynamic by using what we call props. And props simply is just an attribute. So this hello function or hello component can have a props. So it can have a name, and let's type Luke Cage, for example. So the idea here is to see hello Luke Cage instead of hello back. And let's get back to hello, and let's here insert props as a parameter. Okay, and instead of back, in curly braces like that, we will type props.name, and we will save, and immediately you will find that React has reacted to the changes that you did. And you can change that here as well. You can just make Luke, and it has hot reloading. You don't have to refresh the page or anything. It just immediately changes. Okay, so yeah, this is the first thing. Let's make it Luke Cage as it was. So this is the first syntax or the first approach, using functional component or stateless component. Let me comment these lines out. Let's have our class or our second syntax. So ES6 class based component. Okay, then we will type class, which is not class actually, it's all prototypes. It's just class for me is just syntactical sugar. Classes are nothing more than a convenient way to write prototypes, but it's just my opinion. Hello, the same name as we gave to the function. And here we need to extend react.component. Okay, and component should be in C, and we should import it above inside curly braces component like that. Okay, this is for the life cycle and state and everything else. So we will render, so render method, and here we will return inside h1 tags hello, and this is not only going to be props.name but this.props.name. Okay, and this in JavaScript is the equivalent of self in Python. It points to this specific object that we want to change. So this.props.name, and we will save, and we will get the same result. Okay, So we'll save again. All right, we have the same output. So congratulations, now you know how to render components in your React application using two different approaches. Let me show you a very quick example before we go ahead and start working with Django and React. Just to show you that we can have more than one component inside the main root app component. So I will create a counter that counts numbers up and down. So we'll call it counter.js. So as I told you, there are two main ways to create a component or an individual component. The first using functional or stateless component, and the second using classes or class-based component. But actually we can use hooks in functional components. So hooks are new to React. Before React 16.8, all developers were required to write classes to take advantages of some certain React features. And you can still use classes, but hooks provide better ways to build a component. And in my opinion, the best approach is to use React hooks because React is in this transitional phase at the moment where they're trying to phase out classes and phase into hooks. So all new code should be written using hooks. And I have a blog post, by the way, on React hooks if you are interested and you want to read it. I will leave the link in the description. So let's start by importing React as always. So we will import React from React module, and it will complain now because it's declared but not used, but that's fine. And here we want to import one very important hooks method called useState. useState, and I forgot to add a comma here. Okay. I'm not going to write a class-based component, but I'm going to write a functional component. So I'm going to create a function and I will call it counter. And here I want to declare a variable, and this might look odd to you at first. So const, and inside I have a count variable and I have set count variable as well. So these two values are inside one const variable. And I will assign it to the useState method. Let's put 0 here, or let's put 100 here. And by the way, this is a general convention to have your first value as your variable, which is count, and the second would be a setter for that variable. So we have count, then we have set count. If you have number, then we have set number, and so on. And what we want to return actually after that, if you remember, I told you we need to just wrap everything inside one main parent element as you like. Could be paragraph, could be anything. So let's have a div, okay, and inside that let's have, for example, h2, and here we will have our main count, which starts from 100. Okay, so count like that, and let's actually export default counter, and we'll go to app.js and let's import it. Import counter from components, and the file is counter. All right, and let's comment this line out, and let's go to our React app, and here let's pass our counter. We'll save that, and we get 100, which is our main count. And you will hit F12, okay, and you will go to components, and this is why I told you that you need to install your Chrome DevTools for React. So in components, you will find that we have here our counter, which we have set it here. And if you will click on that, you'll find that hooks has a state of 100. Okay, and if we will change it, if we'll make it, for example, 300, we'll save that. You'll find, click again, we'll find that it has been changed. All right, so let's get back to our code. So this is the initial count, 0.0. I want to start it from 100. And let's give it a breaking line, and let's have a button. Okay, so this button will have two buttons actually. One will increase the number and the other one will decrease it. So inside button I want to have onClick attribute, so onClick, and this will be equal to an arrow function which doesn't take any arguments, and it will return a callback function, set count, and this callback function will take the count and add to it, let's say 100. And inside the button let's click plus, so we'll save that, we'll have click plus. Alright, so if we'll click here, you'll increase it by 100. Let's actually close this. Alright, and also we will need a second button, so instead of plus we will make it minus. Okay, and here we'll type minus. Okay, we'll save that, and let's have a breaking line. Okay, let's have another one. Okay, alright, so we have 100, click plus and click minus. So if we'll click plus, this will increase. If we'll click minus, this will decrease. Okay, and let's have in index.css, let's change the background color to black, and let's have color set to aqua, and also let's have font family, let's set it to sans serif. Alright, and as I told you, you have different components that could be inside this div. So if I will return Luke Cage, hello Luke Cage, you'll find that you will have hello Luke Cage then after our counter. Alright, so next I will show you how to connect the backend server, which will be written in Django framework, to our front end, which will be written in React. And we will connect both the backend and the front end using a very important tool called Axios. Okay, so coming up next. So some of the reasons to choose React with Django, that both React and Django are the most popular libraries and frameworks in their respective domains. React's SPA or single page application optimization plus Django's powerful features make it even better. So as we will see now that both Django and React parts will be handled separately, and this results in cleaner and clear interface between front-end and back-end logic and functions. Also, it's easy to deploy either the front-end part or the back-end part without redeploying the other. So you can deploy the front-end without needing to deploy the back-end, or the opposite. Okay, and now we need to work on two parts. So the back-end, where we're going to create our API using Django REST, and the front end, where we will interact directly with the API using ReactJS. So we're going to create a simple project to write employee's name and his department in the backend. That's all it is. And then we're going to connect React as our main front end to Django server to fetch data and display it on our React application. So let me create a folder. I will call it React-Django, and let's open it with git bash tool. And in this project I will work in virtual environment, so I will use pipenv. And if you don't have it, you can pip install pipenv like that, hit enter, and it will be installed immediately. Then once that's done, we will need a couple of packages. So we will need Django REST framework package, and also we'll need Django course headers. So let's go ahead and do that. Not using pip, but pip env install Django REST framework. And Django REST framework is just a toolkit to build our API. And also later we will install Django course headers just to handle the server headers required for course. Course, if I remember correctly, stands for cross origin resource sharing, but I'm not sure. And this is to add the course headers, which allows your API to be accessed on any other domain. So this is the first package that we're installing, Django-REACT framework. Once this is done, we will go ahead and install the course headers. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and pip env install Django dash course dash headers. And this won't install it globally on your system, but only in your project, in your virtual environment. Alright, perfect. So let's clear the terminal. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a Django project. So Django admin, start project, and we'll call it project, just for simplicity. Alright, let's go ahead and enter project. Project. And inside we should have another project folder and manage.py. So Python manage.py start app, and we will call it app simply. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and open that with Visual Studio Code. So let's go ahead and start working on the models.py. So here we're going to have our database for our project. We'll have two fields only, employee name and department. So let's create a class. So I will call it React and models.model. And the first field is employee. This will be equal to models.char field with maximum length of 30. And the second field is department. You can increase it if you want, but 200 is very reasonable for department's name. Now let's create a file called serializer, and we will create it inside our main app. So just serializer.py. And serializers in general are basically used to convert complex data to native Python data types, which can then be easily rendered into JSON, which we're going to use in React on the client side. So inside serializer, I want to import from REST_framework, import serializers. Then from models, in the current directory, I want to import everything because there live our database. And I want to create a class called React Serializer. And create a meta class. Model is equal to React, and our fields equal to inside a list employee and department. So this is serializer. Let's save that file. Let's close it. Now let's go to views.py. And here inside views.py, we will create our methods. So let's go ahead and import first our packages. So from REST framework .views, I want to import the API view. From current directory models, import that. This. All right, and from REST framework dot response, I want to import response. Serializer, I want also to import everything. And I have a typo here, frame work. Okay, and let's create our main class. So class, I will call it React View, and our main parameter is the API class, main class that we have imported from REST frameworks.views. Okay, and here I want to create two methods only, the get and post methods. So get self as first parameter and request, of course, and let's declare a variable, we'll call it output, and output will be equal to a list, and inside that list I have a dictionary. Then first key is employee and is set to a value of output dot employee. Okay, and also I need a second key, which will be the department, our second field, and this will be set to output dot department. And here I want to use a for loop. So for each output, so for output in react dot objects dot all, okay, I want to return response, passing the output inside as our main argument. Alright, so this is just simply to display the output, the employee and the department after invoking the get method. The second method is the post. So post also will take self and request. And let's declare a variable called serializer, which will be equal to, and here the data will be equal to request dot data, and I want to have a condition. So we'll say if serializer dot is valid, setting a parameter of raise exception, and we'll set it to true. So if serializer is valid, then we will save it. So serializer dot save, and we will return response with the data. So serializer dot data. So in this post method, what we did is we have saved the data by passing the data to React serializer method. All right, now it's time to define the endpoint of the API, which is the URL where our client will head to consume data from the server using React. And it's generally the place where the resources like the database live. So let's go ahead to URLs inside our main project here, and let's make some configuration steps. So here I need include also from django.conf.urls. I want to import URL also from app.views. I need to import everything. All right, and I need a path or a main route. So path, just an empty string, and I want React View as underscore view method, and with a name of just anything. You can do anything. So by writing this line, we have actually set the local host with the port 8000, which is the default port for Django, to be the endpoint for our React View class. So this is what we did here. Now there are some few changes in settings.py. So let's go to settings.py. And the first thing we need to do is we need to add in installed apps our main application. Also, I want to add REST framework and course headers. So course headers. I also want to go to the middleware list here, and I want to add course headers dot middleware dot course middleware. And also let's create a dictionary. So let's put here below. So we will call it REST underscore framework. We'll say default in capital letters, default permission classes. and this will be set to a list, and inside here in small letters say rest underscore framework dot permissions dot allow any. And this will be very important because we're going to work with React, so we'll need this in order to not block the React framework from interacting with Django. Okay. Also, I want to assign a variable. I will call it course underscore origin allow all. We'll set it to true. Okay, perfect. Just a small point about the course headers package that we have installed and imported, that this package is used to tell the browser that our web application is running at one origin. Okay, and we will need to access our backend resources from a different origin. In this case, in our case here in this tutorial, from React. This will be very useful if you will have more interactivity on your React application. So you will enter the name of the employee and the department, and you will hit submit. We won't do this now, but I wanted to write it so you can upgrade this application and add more functionalities to it. So this is for more interactivity on the browser itself, to allow users to enter their names and department names. So just be careful. In the serializer.py, it's serializers with an S, not serializer. Okay, I forgot an S. Alright, so let's go ahead and open our integrated terminal. Python manage.py. So we're going to make migrations now. Okay, and let's go ahead and migrate. So migrate. Okay, cool. And let's create super user. So create super user back at mail.xyz, and password anything 123456. That's okay. Alright, so super user created successfully. Congratulations. Alright, so let's go ahead and run the server. Python manage.py run server. Okay. Localhost port 8000. Alright, perfect. So we have our Django REST framework, and this is because we have imported this Django REST framework package. We have our two fields, employee and department. Let's go ahead and type mark as employee, department, accounting department, and post. And you will have here in JSON format, employee mark, department, accounting. Okay, let's have a second employee. Let's say, for example, Linda, and she works in human resources. Okay, and if we'll make get, so we'll have our two employees added to our backend server managed by Django. All right, so I will leave this server opened. Now let's go ahead and create our front end side. And to do that, we will need to actually get out of this folder projects. So we have project only. Okay, I wanted to call this backend because we will have backend and front end. That's okay. So project is the backend, you know that. And now let's go ahead and create React app. We'll call it front end, right? And it's going to take a while. So I will pause the video here and I will be back when it's done. All right, so we have our React application created. Let's go ahead and enter front end folder. And now we need to install a tool called Axios. Axios is the main tool for connecting the backend with the front end. And all the requests will be sent to the backend, to the server, with the help of Axios. Without it, there will be no connection between React and Django. So npm install Axios. All right. And let's go ahead and exit front end and open the main folder React Django with Visual Studio Code. So we have our front end and back end. Alright, so let's actually close the browser, and let's from inside the folder, what I want to do is I want to open the back end with bash, and the front end I will open it inside Visual Studio Code. So python manage.py run server to run the Django server. Okay, here there is no possibility to click on the link, so we'll need to do it manually. So let's go to the localhost 127 on port 8000, and we still have the same. So we will keep our backend server running in the background. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and work on our front-end development. So you saw a while ago that we will need to work mainly with app, index, and any other component that we might create. So first of all, let's go ahead and run our development server. Let's go to front end and npm start. Okay, so it's open in the same browser, Google Chrome. So we have here our local host on 8000, the backend, and we have our front end working or listening on port 3000. Okay, perfect. And let's go ahead and work on our app.js. So let me just clear this out, and we'll have another div, and here we'll say h1, and inside here we'll say, for example, BB Tech Company. So this is one thing. I think it's because of the app.css. It's better to be in the middle of the page like that. It's okay, we'll leave it like that. We'll make use of app.css. That's okay. Now we'll need to grab the data from the backend server from our Django framework. These fields, employee, department with different names, Mark, Linda, different departments. We need to grab all of that and render it here in our main application. So we have a method called component.did.mount, and this method is called when the component is rendered. And I will show you what I mean in a second, so let's go ahead and start working. Let's close that. Actually, you know what? I will use class instead of function. So let's delete all of that. And let's delete those two lines also, we don't need them. And let's import Axios from Axios. Then I want to create a class. So this is a class-based component. We will call it app, and it extends React.component. So we'll create state object, and here we'll have details for an empty list. And here I will use the component did mount method. So component did mount. Okay, so let's declare a variable called data. All right, and I will use Axios dot get, and here we want to get our backend server. So on http :// port 8000 dot then. So here I'm using promise, and here we'll take a response as an argument, and we want to return data. We will assign it to res.data, and this dot set state as capital, set state, and here the details will be set to whatever data we will get. All right, let's have a semicolon here, and here below dot catch if any errors. So in case of error, we'll have an empty object, or you can return a message. Okay, but I will leave it empty. Then below here we want to render. So what we want to render? Well, everything basically. So we will return, and let's have a header. Header. I don't know why I did that. Header. Okay. So we'll say data generated from Django, and here let's give it one horizontal line. So what we want to do is we want to map each ID for each output, and we will use an array method called map. That's why I told you that you'll need to be aware of the ES6 classes array methods. So this .state.details, which is here above, which is set to data, .map method, and this will take two parameters. The first is output and the second is the ID, and this will return the output that we should see on the screen. So inside here we will have div. I will close that div. Okay, and let's have the name of employee in h2 tag, and the department in h3 tag. Okay, so here simply output.employee and output.department. And let's actually make some changes. So let's have a key here with the ID. Okay, and let's have another div around. All right, like this. All right, and it's still red. Why? It's complaining because React is not defined. All right, so let's import React from React. Okay, and save, and there it is. Fantastic. So data generated from Django. We have the names here, Mark Accounting. So let me maximize this. So as you can see, both servers are working simultaneously. This one is for the backend. This one is for the front end. So let's open the terminal just to show you. Node. Okay, so both are working in the same time. So let's maximize this to see things clearer. We have our employee's name, department, and so on. We don't have the ability, of course, to add user or add employee with his department or her department, but as I told you, you can add this if you want. You can make your research and find out how we can do that, how we can add just an input field with submit button, two input fields actually. Any user can interact with our application. But the purpose here is I wanted to show you how we can link both using Axios. So let's go ahead and enter any other name. Let's say, for example, Olga, department production, and we will post. Okay, perfect. Get request. So we have 3 employees. Let's go to our front end and let's save or refresh, and boom, we have Olga in production. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. I hope it was useful to you, and we have seen many things. We have seen how we can work with React alone, how we can connect Django with React, and how we can work with multiple servers, how we can connect the backend to the front end. Yeah, and definitely React is very big, and we have just scratched the surface in this video, let me tell you. And I will try to create some projects in the future where we can use React as our front end and Django or Fast API as our backend, and then we can connect them together. All right. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next videos. Take it easy.